Hello, everyone, to another episode of The Fun Side. Today, with me, I have a good friend, David Speese. David is a friend from B School. He was actually my senior, but David was quite instrumental in helping me break into the venture world, grow my network in the space, and learn more about what's happening in there. David, how are you today?
Damien, doing great. Good to see you.
What part of the world are you in today, David?
Physically, I am sitting in Berlin, Germany.
And mentally?
Mentally, always in Spain, of
All
course.
right.
Yeah.
No, we do miss Spain. That's where our B school used to be, ESA Business School. David, let's before we jump into your professional career, let's talk about the dream that could have been. So you used to swim competitively in college, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true. The dream that could have been. Yeah. Yeah. I did my 10,000 hours staring at a black line at the bottom of the pool for sure, which probably influenced me in more ways than one.
Great. And instead of competing against Michael Phelps, instead you went into the world of private banking. But after B school and during B school, actually, you started pivoting into the world of venture. So you wear multiple hats. You're a venture scout for a bunch of funds like Tiburon, Flashpoint. You're also the founder of XAura, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. When you meet someone at an event, what do you tell them that is what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And I think obviously kind of I tailor my answer depending on who I'm speaking with to an extent. But in general, yes, I would say I wear three hats at the moment. I'm the co-founder and one of the general partners of XAura Ventures, which is an investment club that's based on a community of individuals from IESE. Also, I'm a venture partner at Tiburon, which is an early stage firm that's based in Munich. And then within that, I'm actually working really closely with one of the portfolio companies right now. So I'm kind of doing some operating as well. And then third, last but not least, is I'm a scout at Flashpoint Ventures, which is a UK-based Series A fund. But yeah, so I guess it depends, if I'm speaking with an LP, speaking with a founder, or speaking with an investor. But generally, that's the gist of it.
So then, David, tell me more. Why did you want to transition from private banking into venture?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I mentioned, I started well, I was a swimmer in university Division One school called UNC Chapel Hill. Go Heels. Um, and afterwards, I was actually a bit of an entrepreneur. While I was still competing, I was basically starting to do a lot of private lessons for children and also triathletes to basically pay for my food bill, which was exorbitant. When you're doing 30 to 50 kilometers a week in the pool, the amount of calories that you have to consume is just painful.
I don't
So
think I
basically,
walk that much. Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, the 10,000 hours definitely checked that one off. Um, so I realized that within my community, there was actually way more of a demand than I could supply, right? Doing, 5 or 6 private lessons per day on the weekend. And so with one of my best friends, Chris Gondek, we decided to found a swim clinic, actually, basically to service this need in the community where we were, where there were a lot of individuals, mostly children, who were in entry level swimming. But then up here, there was an elite club team, one or two elite club teams, but there was nothing in the middle to kind of help these athletes, children, get from point A to point B. And so we decided to kind of create this swim clinic concept. And within 18 months, we had a profitable business. We had 15 employees, and we had more money than we knew what to do with at age 20 or 21 in our pockets. So it was really cool. That was kind of my entry into entrepreneurship. And so that kind of always stayed in the back of my mind, right? But as you probably can imagine, running a swim clinic and being physically in the pool isn't the most scalable or sustainable business model. So I ended up stepping away from that, and I looked for something a little bit more, I guess, safe and a little bit more shiny. And I ended up landing at JP Morgan. So while I was there, I was working within the financial sponsors group, kind of working with large private equity firms. I found that to be entirely not collaborative, not like the kind of the entrepreneurial world that I had been in. So I ended up moving to Citi Private Bank, where I was working with high net worth individuals and kind of their family wealth and their family offices. When I was there, I found it to be extremely exciting at first, because you're speaking with and working closely with some of the more wealthy individuals in the world and some of the more powerful individuals as well. I was sitting in DC at the time, and the first 3 years of that were amazing, and then COVID happened, so that's 2020, obviously. And COVID was it was a really interesting time for me because it allowed me to kind of take a step back, physically come out of the office, stop wearing a suit every day, and think about, hey, what do I actually want to do, right? Because my job just
That
became,
existential crisis that I think
yeah,
we all
just
went
like
through during COVID.
exactly. Most people can relate. Um, and so I found myself, sitting at home just doing email and honestly a bit unenthralled with kind of the business of private banking, basically asking people for money and managing it, of course. And so, in my spare time, I started taking Spanish lessons, which was just more of like a hobby and something that interested me. And so that became, okay, how can I use this language skill? How can I get a little bit closer to entrepreneurship? And and the answer kind of crystallized to me was, one, I'd like to go do an MBA, and yes, it was the only school I wanted to go to, it was the only school I applied to. And then two, I wanted to get into venture, right? Because it was kind of a perfect combination of how do I engage with really cool entrepreneurs? How do I stay close to innovation? And then how do I do this in an international way? Because I would say, ventures, it is a very local game, but it's also, it's very much about networking and kind of moving across geographies and trying to find excellent opportunities. So hopefully I answered your question, but that's kind of how I made the transition from, or at least the thought transition from working in private banking, wearing a suit every day. I worked 4 blocks from the White House in DC, to now never wearing a suit again, hopefully, except for weddings.
And hopefully not funerals.
Well,
But yeah, no, that's great, and we'll come back to the school ties a little bit more when we're talking about XAura. So this everyone could reasonably assume that scouting is a glamorous job. You're going to events, you're talking to startups, you're reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, I could potentially get you, a lot of funding. Pitch yourself to me." But what does a venture scout actually do?
basically, you are looking for opportunities that aren't publicly available. And
Hmm.
most of those come from relationships, and most of these things come from talking to people. I would I would say that scouting is very much like horse trading, right? Because you have to create something with the resources that you have. And so usually my best deal sources have come from trading deals. And so usually you have
Hmm.
to give first. And so that's
Right.
kind of what I've found, or to be successful in the scouting world, is that like you have to bring something to the table for someone to be able to be willing to talk to you, and then willing to, pass along something that might be interesting for you. So I really think about scouting as kind of horse trading, actually.
Okay, interesting. I know you were at Bits and Pretzels in Munich recently, and you went to Oktoberfest for one of these events. Um, can you tell us about like a weird place or weird situation where you actually came across an interesting deal?
An interesting deal. I can tell you actually at Bits and Pretzels last year, uh,
Hmm.
I was going to the bathroom, and
Oh, it's already sounding shady, but
yeah,
go
yeah,
on.
yeah. So I was running to the restroom, and basically a founder followed me in and started pitching me while I was at the urinals next to me. And so I
Okay.
would say, one, I appreciate the hustle, but two, it definitely made me a little bit uncomfortable. Um, we did not invest in that founder, but you know what? We ended up having a conversation after after we finished our business, washed our hands, and went out to the main floor. Um, that was fairly interesting for sure.
Great. And what for you is important as a process to build founder trust? What is it that you look for, and how do you exhibit that you can build their trust?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about it's partially the person. It's also partially kind of what they're working on, right? I think starting with the person, these are kind of more qualitative things. So
Hmm.
you want to be working and dealing with trustworthy people. So like, do is my first impression of this individual do they have integrity? Are they honest? These are things that are really important because you're starting kind of like a handshake relationship, right?
Mhm.
You're basically believing in an individual to see if they can build something that you would want to be a part of. And they, and hopefully they allow you to be a part of it if the answer is yes. So I'd say trust is really important, and then also kind of ambition. What is this person trying to build? What are their goals? Why are they trying to build this thing? Is this a sector or vertical that I think I can understand, right? Because as a venture investor, you're a generalist unless you're working at a specialist fund. So it's a combination of kind of the qualitative and then the quantitative, or like the facts. Like, okay, is this a market that I would see myself investing in? Is this business model something interesting? Is this product, if it exists, something that I would want to get behind and support? And then, it's very much about the person. So like, do I trust them? Do I think they're ambitious? Do I think they will be able to continue building, continue iterating when things get super hard, because it always will. And then on my side, right, I want to mirror the same things. I want to show that I have some sort of understanding and can basically help these founders in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through business development, whether that's through introductions, whether that's through helping them raise the next round, things like that.
Fantastic. So it's a very people-driven business, very people-driven industry, and now shifting to the school ties. So you're also a co-founder of XAura Ventures, right? And disclaimer, I'm also a director at XAura Ventures. So XAura Ventures is the brainchild of four MBA students, now alumni from IESE, who came together wanting to build a community of alumni who could invest in private deals. You kicked off officially last year around December, but you're already on your third deal, right? So before we jump into those deals, which are very exciting, how did the idea of starting XAura Ventures come about?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something I'm super passionate about. So I did my internship between years 1 and year 2 at the MBA at Tiburon, which is
Mm.
something between a family office and a venture fund based in Munich. And I was super lucky to kind of be exposed to investors that had been in the space for so long. They've done somewhere between 150 to 200 investments at the early stage, two of
Impressive.
Germany's earliest unicorns, so Trivago and Zing. And then one of the founders as well had IPO'd his own company on the London Stock Exchange. So I kind of had a front seat to something, to a very small investment shop that had been very successful in the past. And one of my first thoughts was that how can I start investing in some of the things that they're investing in?
Mhm.
And I would say that, combined with some of the conversations that I had with my co-founders, so Lou, Yassine, and Marco, how can we basically start syndicating capital to invest in some really interesting things that we're seeing in our, soon to be professional lives? And so that thought and that idea is kind of what kicked off XAura Ventures. And what has it turned into? It's turned into an amazing community, of almost 60 people at this point who all have interest in investing in cool private market deals together. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, basically the idea is that if you're a business angel, you typically need 25, 50, or 100,000 euros to get the attention of a founder. My 2, 5, or 10,000 euros is not going to get the attention of anybody unless it's my brother, neighbor, or cousin.
Mhm.
And so syndicating capital was really important from the beginning. And then, yeah, so it started as an idea. It crystallized into our first deal in Q4 of last year. And now XAura is close to deploying almost $1 million this year.
That's fantastic and super exciting for me as well to be a part of this community and help drive some of the operations and investments. But I'm going to dig on a little bit more because you said almost $1 million of capital being deployed. You're not giving investment advice, right? You're giving opportunities for people to invest in deals based on due diligence that you and the team deliver, and also inviting people to do their own due diligence, right? So how do you balance this act between giving this very professional seeming business outlook and opportunity to a community that you have personal ties with, but at the same time keeping a professional line there to show that, we're close, we're friends, we're a community from the same B school, but this is something lucrative, right? This is something, if you're interested in, that you should consider for your investment portfolio. How do you bridge that? How do you manage that balance?
Yeah, that's something I'm trying to do on a daily basis for sure.
Mhm.
But to touch upon your first comment, which is definitely not investment advice. We are not managing funds on behalf of anybody. Our goal is to invest into cool and exciting private market opportunities, and we're just giving the opportunity to do that alongside us with
Yeah.
basically our friends. And so the amazing thing about business school is that you do become very close friends with many, many people. But at the end of the day, it's also a professional network. So that filter on kind of our business school friends, it makes it very easy to, to have the conversations about, hey, let's work on deals together. Let's build something together, because that was the original intent, and that was the original reason why we all attended business school. So I would say these are some of my closest friends in the entire world. But also at the same time, all of us have gone kind of through the same business training. We all have kind of the same, goals, or at least similar goals and ambitions. So it makes it very easy to kind of have these conversations like, hey, there's a deal I'm investing in. Are you interested? Here are the terms. Obviously, we try to keep it very professional, right? We do our own due diligence. We also ask others to do their own due diligence. But yeah, I mean, I think that anyone who is investing in private markets knows that there's a personal aspect to it, because it's not public information. It's not these deals aren't publicly available. And who do you go to when you're investing in these things together? You go to your network, and a big part of my network comes from IESE.
And for the startups that are listening there, like, why would they approach you for an investment over another type of angel network that's, let's say, more professionally run on a full-time basis, or an individual who's a high net worth individual, or a business angel in like, what's the difference? Why XAura?
Great question. That's something that we're shaping
Hmm.
for sure. Two things come to mind. One is willingness. I would say, many angel investors and angel groups are a bit disconnected from the end investment that they make. We encourage at XAura Ventures for our members to get involved if they want to and if they think they can help, right? And so what does that mean, and how is that? What are the outcomes from that? For example, our first investment,
Hmm.
some folks in the Spanish market were able to make some introductions in terms of potential clients and customers, which is super key in the industrial manufacturing space, which our first investment is in. And then the other is diversity. So, I mean, I'm sitting in Germany, but I'm American. You're sitting in Dubai. We have almost 30 countries represented within the 60 members of IESE. And many of these individuals come from family businesses and family offices in these regions. And so we are able to kind of open doors in places that other angel groups might not be able to, especially if they're clustered in a specific area or city. And so that, I would say, those two, kind of the willingness to help, and then also the global reach.
Great. Let me remove my interviewer hat and put my XORA hat. No, I'm super excited for what we're building, and I can't wait to keep shaping, keep structuring, and keep growing what XORA is about. Because I mean, doing 3 deals, within a year, with all 5 of us doing our own full-time thing, has been quite impressive, and it's also been encouraging to see the community get behind us and push us to bring more value to them on the table as well, right? So I think from multiple angles, it's been really rewarding so far, and I think it's what's going to push us to continue to grow bigger and do better, and work on some exciting deals for the startups as well, to bring them value, like you said, building connections to them, giving them advice, giving them support, which would be in a way different to what a traditional VC would be willing to do, because I think we're taking it from a more humanistic, more person approach, in order to do that, to connect with who we would invest in?
Yeah, of course. I mean, two quick points there. I think that XAura, for me, and I think for many of the members, this is the real ROI
Mm.
on a 100,000 plus euro check for business school, right? What we're actively doing is we are curating a community of individuals who have the interest to invest into private
Mm.
markets. What we're finding is when we're putting all of these individuals together, some really cool things are happening, right? Um, again, I'm super excited and share your uh, and share the exact same thing as you. Something else that
Great.
might come out of it as well is like, look, we might be able to place lots of interns from ESA into some of these portfolio companies in the future. So internships and jobs and who knows what happens.
Fingers crossed for the community.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
let's move. Let's talk a little bit more macro. I'm curious to get your thoughts, David. What's your read on where the VC market is going, particularly in Europe, right? Like Europe, very different to the Americas. The check sizes are smaller, the risk appetite is lower, but it seems like there's a little bit of a change happening, at least in the last few years. So tell us, what are you seeing on the ground?
Hmm. Yeah, if you go on LinkedIn, you see a lot of hot takes and posts about, Europe. I mean, depends which profiles you're looking at, but some complain about the bureaucracy of Europe, and then others are
Mm.
saying, Europe is here. Look at all of these, newly minted AI unicorns that we have. So I would say there are some really exciting things happening in Europe. It's definitely a laggard to the US purely because of timing and volume, right? I would say Europe is probably 10 to 15 years at least behind the US in terms of how complex the ecosystem is. If you
Okay,
want to think
that's a
about
hot take.
that's a hot take. Yeah, for sure. If you want to think about volume, this is not a hot take, right? It's about pure investment numbers. So to give you some context, like Spain in 2024 received 2 billion euros of early stage venture funding.
Mm.
The city of New York, just the city of New York received 20. So
Wow.
10x the amount of early stage venture funding compared to Spain.
Yeah.
Uh, the country of Germany was a little bit less than 8. The country of France, same. And so as these numbers are picking up, actually the growth rate of the amount of venture funding in Europe is higher than it is in the US. But
Mhm.
by size, you can't even compare. Um, and so yeah, I mean, people are complaining about the amount of bureaucracy that is needed to kind of get startups off the ground, to invest into startups. For example, here in Germany, the most common complaint is that the notary has to read every single word of an investment agreement out loud. And so that can take 5 hours or 3 days. And as you get progressively longer, it's more expensive. Or as you go deeper into kind of the cycle of a company, it gets longer and more expensive. And so, like, yeah, it's a total waste of time. But at the end of the day, like, you know what, that's kind of unfortunately, those are some of the hurdles that you have to pass in the EU. But that being said, I'm very bullish on my outlook for Europe. I mean, sitting here in Berlin, there's lots of really exciting things happening. There are many companies that are growing extremely fast. And in general, I think that wherever you're sitting in the world, because the ability to build technology is not confined to a specific geographic location, there are going to be cool things coming out as long as the ecosystem and the people can support it. And so, I see that happening here in Berlin and Germany and in Europe as a whole.
Great. Amazing. And do you see the LPs and the investors being attracted more to the shiny objects? Well, in today's day, every startup having AI after it. Or do you still see they're still grounded in the roots of Europe being industrious, being research driven, deep tech, actual hard hitting B2B type businesses? Where do you see the interest either staying or growing?
Hmm. Again, I think to give you a nuanced answer, it depends on who you're speaking with, right?
Mm.
I would say in general, it's a little bit frothy right now. If you're building an AI product and you went from 0 to 500,000 in recurring revenue in the past year or less,
Mhm.
it's pretty easy to raise funds because there's a lot of folks that are kind of jumping on the AI bandwagon. And so that's made pricing a little bit interesting. But also at the same time, in general, I would say European venture investors are a bit more conservative because the ecosystem hasn't developed or is a little bit behind, and because there's less capital. And when there's less capital, you can be a bit more particular about what you want in a startup, right? Our third investment actually is they're going out and they're speaking to leads right now. And on the European side, kind of the resounding answer is that, hey, we want to see more traction. But my response is, this is a pre-seed deal. They're just launching their product. You're betting on the people, you're betting on the team, and you're betting on their ability to execute. So I think, again, it depends, right? Like many venture investors in Europe actually come from a PE background. So they want to see hard numbers. They want to see real traction. And sometimes for angel tickets and pre-seed, that's really not congruent with kind of like what the reality of what you're investing in. But yeah, on the industrial side, like there's some really cool deep tech companies coming out of Europe because it has this academic and science backbone, right? I don't remember what the percentage of student graduates from their bachelors in Germany are technical, but it's much higher than the US for sure. So there is like a really nice deep tech base here.
Great. So if you had to make one prediction for the next, let's say, 3 years of what Europe is going to focus on, what would that prediction be?
What Europe's going to focus on over the next 3 years? I mean, the hottest vertical right now in all of VC is robotics, right? It's like, how can we automate, the less desirable jobs, the more manual jobs, the jobs where we can't hire enough because there isn't enough talent, or excuse me, there isn't enough labor. And what I'm seeing in the market right now is very much so software companies that are supporting the development of robotics, and also, lots of robotics companies. So over the next 3 years, I think we'll see, lots of robotics plays. We're probably not going to see any foundational models because you need too much capital for that. That'll come from the US. But I think the next trend probably here in Europe is software to support the robotic revolution.
The robotic revolution. Would you transfer your consciousness to a robot if you could?
Yeah, if it can kind of do all my day-to-day housework, right? I think if I could transfer the basic consciousness of David Speese to fold my own laundry and cook my own mediocre meals, yeah, that'd be great.
That's a bleak life, man. Not gonna lie. Great. So let's move on now to our next portion of the interview, David. It's the segment I like to call At VC, which is advice from a VC. So, David, what is your advice for someone who wants to, or who recently has been selected as a venture scout for a fund?
Get out there. You have to be out in the market, which means you have to be going to all of the networking events. You have to be going to conferences. You have to be speaking with one, entrepreneurs, and two, other investors as much as you possibly can, right? Number two would be organized, because with all of this outbound, you get a lot of noise, right? You talk to people who send you shit deals, and you need to be able to basically filter these things out, because whoever you're reporting to, you're trying to impress them, right? I mean, what's your end goal? You probably don't want to be a scout. You probably want to be an investor. So you need to be out there, but also have a nice filter. Yeah, I would say those are my 2 points right off the bat.
And what are some tools that you would recommend for any scout or VC to have in their repertoire, be it like, let's say, books, systems used, podcasts that you listen to, or anything that you think is an important resource that people in this space should look to leverage as much as possible?
Obviously, there's lots of podcasts about startups, right? I mean, you want to get embedded in the city that you're in, for sure. So you want to get close with, like, for example, I went to a VC paddle event last night that was hosted by a couple of funds, and then also a marketing agency that works with funds, right? You want to be close to the ground. in the city that you're in. So that means, joining all the local newsletters, basically showing up at all the local events where, VCs are getting together.
Mhm.
Even going to hackathons and things like that. So I would
Okay.
say you want to pretend that you're putting on kind of like your founder hat and seeing like, okay, where are people going to be? What are they going to be doing? And then also, you just need to be active, right? You need to be out there on LinkedIn. You need to be out there, like interacting with people as much as you can.
All right. Fantastic. And what advice would you give to a startup that's looking to pitch to you?
Don't approach me in the bathroom. Uh, if they're looking to pitch to me, I mean, I would say go through the usual channels, right? Because as a scout, as an investor, being organized is really important. And so if you can go through the usual channels and then also like, which is helpful for me, right? Like if you send me a LinkedIn DM, I might not respond to it for a week or two, unfortunately. And then timing isn't probably the best. But basically, if you come in through the normal channels, it allows me to basically filter and look at things as in the best way possible, right? And so, okay, go through the normal channels, but try to like distance yourself from the crowd, right? I don't want a ChatGPT email that says like the same thing that everybody else is. I mean, try to make it a little bit personal, but also again, don't approach me in the bathroom.
Well noted for all the startups there. Hopefully they're listening. Let the man pee in peace. Fantastic. And now are you ready for the next segment, the rapid fire round?
Let's go.
All right. You had your sip of water, taking a deep breath. All right. You have to answer quickly, limited time to think. All right. You ready, David?
Let's go. Yeah, I'm ready.
Great. Favorite deal you've scouted?
I think it's the one we're working on right now, Lemon Health.
All right. One
What
red
about
flag that instantly kills your excitement in a founder.
integrity, right? Basically, if I find any hint of dishonesty or trying to kind of twist reality and show me something different than what actually is happening.
All right. Coffee or a beer during a due diligence meeting?
Coffee first meeting, beer second.
All right. If you had 5 million to deploy today, what theme or thesis would you back apart from robotics?
Apart from robotics, hot take. I think consumer and marketplaces are coming back. I think
Wow.
that consumers are very ready to accept an entire new suite of applications and tools that they're going to be using.
And last one, what is one cliche in VC you secretly love?
Paddle, that VCs are playing paddle right now, and it gives me an opportunity and excuse to go play more.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So that's the fun side with David Speese. Thank you. From swimming to selling to school to scouting to syndicates. Thank you for sharing with us what you bring to the table and what you expect others to. It was great to get a behind the scenes look into your role as a scout, but also as a co-founder for a very exciting community. David, it was a pleasure to have you today, and thank you so much for your time and your knowledge.
Damien, thanks for the time as well. Good to see you. Yeah, I was excited to share and really happy to be part of the fun side. So thank you to you and to Shruti and everybody who's kind of putting this together.